Time is 4:22. We are going back on the record. This is tape 4 of the videotape deposition of Bill Gates.
Mr. Gates, before the break, we were talking about certain statements attributed to you in Exhibits 355, 356, and 364. Did you ever contact any of the publications involved with those exhibits and complain that they had misquoted you in any way?
You mean the two quotes?
Well, I'm actually talking about 3 quotes.
No, one is a pure subset of the other, right?
Well, you obviously have a precise view of what you mean by subset, but let me be absolutely clear what I'm talking about, okay? And let me go through it chronologically.
You want to read it again?
On June 10, 1996, in a document that has been marked as Exhibit 364, the Financial Times attributed to you a quotation, quote, "Our business model works even if all internet software is free," close quote, says Mr. Gates. "We are still selling operating systems. What does Netscape's business model look like if that happens? Not very good," close quote. Did you ever contact either the reporter for the Financial Times who interviewed you or the Financial Times to assert that they had misquoted you in any way?
No.
On July 3, 1996, the Financial Times published what I think you refer to as a subset of that quote. Quote, "Our business model works even if all internet software is free," close quote, says Mr. Gates. Quote, "We are still selling operating systems," close quote, and then added, not in quotes, the statement, "Netscape, in contrast, is dependent on its internet software for profits," he points out. Did you ever contact either the reporter or the Financial Times to assert that either they had misquoted you or that the textual assertion about what you said was inaccurate in any way?
No.
The third is Exhibit 356, which is a Business Week publication dated July 15, 1996, that includes the statement, quote, "One thing to remember about Microsoft," close quote, says Chairman William H. Gates III, quote, "We don't need to make any revenue from internet software," close quote. Did you ever contact either the reporter, who I recognize you say did not interview you, or Business Week to assert that that quote was in any way inaccurate?
Well, I told you I've never talked to that reporter, but nor did I contact Business Week.
In 1996, did you believe that Netscape posed a serious threat to Microsoft?
They were one of our competitors.
Were they a serious competitor in your view, sir?
Yes.
Did you believe that Netscape's browser was a serious threat to your, that is Microsoft's, operating systems business?
We have to think about what work we we're going to do to improve our software, and then what Netscape and others were going to do to improve their software. You can't just look at it statically. It's more the work than the new things you do than the history.
Did you believe that in 1996 that Netscape and Netscape's internet browser was a serious alternative platform to the platform represented by Microsoft's Windows operating system?
Well, as was articulated by Mark Andreessen and other people from Netscape, if we didn't do new product work, that was a very likely outcome.
What was a very likely outcome?
That the value of the Windows platform would be greatly reduced.
Did you believe that it was in Microsoft's interest to convince financial analysts that Netscape was not going to be financially viable?
I never had a goal to do that, and my only comments about Netscape's business would have come in response to direct questions about that topic from reporters.
Well, let me ask you to look at what has been previously marked as Exhibit 354. Which is a memorandum from you in May of 1996. And the last paragraph begins, quote, "At some point, financial-minded analysts will begin to consider how much of a revenue stream Netscape will be able to generate," close quote. Why was that important to you in this internal memorandum, which obviously is not something in which you're merely responding to a reporter's inquiry, but it is something that is involved in your internal deliberations within Microsoft?
Who said it was important? It doesn't say, I mean, it's one of many sentences in the memo.
Is it your testimony that this is an unimportant sentence, sir?
I don't think it's any more important than any of the other sentences in here.
Is it any less important than any of the other sentences?
Yeah. It's not germane to the primary topic of the memo.
If it wasn't germane to the primary topic of the memo, and if it wasn't particularly important, why did you include it, Mr. Gates?
It's merely an observation that I put into this rather extensive memo that talks about our plans in doing innovative products, and it's tacked on, and it's the last paragraph, and you didn't read the whole paragraph, but it says "at some point." So it seems to be a prediction about that.
Yes, I agree. It seems to be a prediction, and I think I did read the "at some point." But my point to you is this is a memorandum that you were sending to a number of the top executives of Microsoft, correct, sir?
All product people.
Well, let's see. We have Mr. Ballmer.
It's not to him.
He's getting a copy.
That's right.
Okay. And what was Mr. Ballmer's position in May of 1996?
Executive Vice President.
How many executive vice presidents did Microsoft have at that time?
1, 2, 3, 4.
And who were the others?
Bob Herbold, Pete Higgins, and Paul Maritz. Oh, no, maybe. No, I think that's just 4.
So that this memorandum went to all 4 of the executive vice presidents, correct, sir?
It went to Paul Maritz. It was copied to the other people there.
It was either addressed or copied to all 4 of the executive vice presidents.
They're among the recipients, yes.
Okay. Well, let's go through who the other recipients are. It is addressed to Executive Vice President Paul Maritz, and below you at this time was Executive Vice President the highest position in the company?
Yes.
Okay. And beneath Executive Vice Presidents, what was the next level?
Senior Vice President.
And how many Senior Vice Presidents were there?
I couldn't tell you. We could do the range thing if you want.
Okay, that'd be good.
About 3 to 9.
Okay. Can you be any more?
I'd say 6 to
narrow?
9.
Okay. Let's go through the people who got this memo. It's addressed to Executive Vice President Paul Maritz.
Actually, his name's misspelled, but yes.
What was Brad Silverberg's position?
I think he was a senior vice president, but he worked for Paul and did a lot of the development of software that went into Windows.
And he was one of the addressees of this memo.
That's right. It goes Maritz, and then he's the second person on the 2 line.
And the third person to whom it's addressed is Jim Alchin, is that correct?
That's right.
What was his position?
Senior vice president of the core Windows development.
And the next person to whom it's addressed is Brad Chase. And what is his position?
At that time or at this time?
At that time.
That time he worked for Brad Silverberg, managing our relationships with ISVs, broadly defined, and some of the marketing activities.
Did he have a position like vice
Oh,
president?
I'm sorry, he was a vice president.
The next person to whom it's addressed is Rich Tong.
He was a vice president with an analogous person to Brad Chase, but working for Jim Alchin.
And the next person is John Ludwig.
He was I'm pretty sure he was a vice president at this time, working for Brad Silverberg.
Now, copies of the memo go to Executive Vice Presidents Ballmer, Herbold, and Higgins. Is that correct?
If I've got those titles right. Actually, now that I think about it, I think Paul and Pete were actually called group vice presidents. And, yeah, they're called group vice presidents, which maybe nobody but me knows this, but actually numerically that's one number lower than executive vice president.
Okay. We'll keep this highly confidential. And then it goes to a variety of other people that I assume hold, at least in the main, significant positions in the company. Is that
No.
fair? Okay, then let's go through them. The copies are Steve Ballmer. He was a executive vice president.
Yeah, if you want, I'll just go through it real
Okay, that'd be
quickly.
great.
Herbold, Executive Vice President. Jeff Rake, Senior Vice President of involved in U.S. Activities working for Steve. Bernard, who at the time ran some of the sales in Europe working for Steve Joachim.
And if you could just give his title.
Bernard actually had an exciting title. He was the chairman of Europe and also senior vice president. But he liked, on his card, he carried the one that said chairman of Europe. Joachim Kempen, senior vice president. Pete Higgins, group vice president. Nathan's also a group vice president at this time, I think. Aaron is
You need to give the full name.
I'm sorry, Aaron Contour is an assistant. Steve Sinofsky was an assistant. Actually, I don't know which of those was an assistant working for me at the time. And Ben Slifka and Chris Jones were two developers.
When you say they were assistants to you?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that you meant this memorandum to be taken seriously by the people to whom it was sent?
No more seriously than other email and memorandums I sent them, but yes, seriously.
Well, now, again, because I know that you're very precise in your use of words, you've drawn distinctions before between emails and memoranda, correct, sir?
That's right.
In fact, you did so today several times when you were being questioned, correct, sir?
I drew a distinction between email being called memoranda.
Right. You didn't like emails being called memoranda because you thought emails didn't rise to the level of memoranda. Is that right?
I didn't suggest a hierarchy, I just suggested a distinction.
Is there a hierarchy in your mind?
No, but there's a distinction.
Are memoranda more formal and more serious than emails?
No, I'd say they're longer and more thoughtful than most email.
Now, what we're looking at here is one of the longer, more thoughtful documents, that is a memorandum, correct?
Right.
And in that longer, more thoughtful memorandum, in the final paragraph, you write, at some point, financial-minded analysts will begin to consider how much of a revenue stream Netscape will be able to generate. Now, what was the significance of that to you at the time, sir?
It was a fact that I stated in the memo.
It clearly is a fact that you stated in the memo, but my question to you, sir, is what was the significance to you of that fact?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean,
In 1996, at the time that you wrote this memorandum, what was the significance to you of the fact that, quote, at some point, financial-minded analysts will begin to consider how much of a revenue stream Netscape will be able to generate?
I think it must have referred to the fact that Netscape was, at this point, a public company.
And can you explain what you mean by that?
But usually you don't have financial analysts for private companies.
I'm not sure I understand your answer. In this memorandum, you say at some point financial business-minded analysts will begin to consider how much of a revenue stream Netscape will be able to generate. What is the significance of that fact to you, or what was the significance of that fact to you in 1996?
Well, I can't reconstruct my state of mind in 1996, but I think it's a fact of almost no significance at all.
Why would you have put a fact that you say has no significance at all?
I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said almost.
Almost no significance at all. Why would you put a fact that, according to you, had almost no significance at all in what you have described as this longer, more thoughtful memorandum to what looks to me to be like most of the very top executives of your company?
I wrote a memo about our products and some of the good things we were doing in our products. I think you can point to a lot of different sentences in here and try and drill in on it and overstate the significance of an individual sentence.
And I am, as you say, I'm drilling in on this particular sentence. But what I'm asking you is, if this particular sentence has, as you put it, almost no significance at all, why would you put it in this memorandum that you describe as one of the longer, more thoughtful type of communications within your company, addressed to the very top executives of your company?
I write lots of things that we'd call memoranda, and I'm sure we can pick a lot of sentences in a lot of my memoranda, and you can say to me, isn't it awful that that sentence doesn't have more significance? And I'll say, fine, that, I don't require that every sentence and every memoranda I write have deep significance.
Is that complete your answer to my question?
Yes.
In 1996, regardless of what significance you attribute to this particular sentence, was it significant to you how financial analysts viewed Netscape?
Well, the thing that's not what we thought about when we thought about the competition with Netscape or the emerging demands for internet capabilities coming from our customers.
My question to you, sir, was, did it matter to you what financial analysts thought of Netscape?
I'm sure there were people here who read what the financial analysts wrote, or some of them, in order to learn more about Netscape.
Yes. I will
So we would
accept that
learn
as
from
so.
them.
Was it significant to you what they thought? Not for the purpose of learning things from them, but was it significant to you what they thought about Netscape? And just to be clear, because I know you're very precise with words, was it significant to you what financial analysts thought about Netscape?
Well, I'd say that if we're trying to say rank things in terms of significance, I'd say that would be about the most insignificant thing I can think of.
Did you ever tell anybody within Microsoft that you thought it was important what financial analysts thought about Netscape?
No, I don't think I've ever said anything like that.
Not in words or in substance.
Well, you keep trying to draw the distinction. I did think it was important for us to learn about Netscape from different sources, and analysts would have been one of those sources. And somehow you've thrown that away, the fact that that was a source of learning.
I didn't mean to throw it away. I'm simply focusing on a different issue.
How can you separate out the two issues?
Let me try to be clear. Perhaps my question has not been clear, and I need to be clearer about it. In 1996, did you desire financial analysts to have a poor or pessimistic or negative view about Netscape?
Well, as we, during 1996, were improving our products and demoing our products and talking about what we thought customers were interested in, there were several elements of feedback that we'd get, including what customers were saying about our internet strategy and our internet products, and the analysts likewise were a form of feedback. And so if they were saying, or customers were saying, geez, we think your efforts aren't what customers want, and we think Netscape or some other company has a strong strategy that matches what they want, that would be a piece of feedback to us to go back and work on aspects of our software products. So in that sense, we were interested because it might help us see where we were in terms of meeting those customer needs.
Let me try again. My question does not relate to what you wanted to learn from financial analysts. My question is whether you wanted to affect what financial analysts thought, to make financial analysts think in a negative or pessimistic way about Netscape. Did you want that, sir, in 1996?
Well, in order to get feedback from customers and analysts, we would show them our products, demonstrate them, or show the ones we were shipping. And we felt, showing customers or demonstrating what we were doing to them or analysts was a valuable way to benchmark where we were. And so if their response was, wow, that's so incredible, that's the best thing I've seen, then that was a valuable piece of feedback. Or if they said, that's quite inferior, that was a valuable piece of feedback. And so in that sense, it was useful.
Let me try to see if I can clarify my question, because I may not be being clear. First, I'm not talking about customers now. I'm talking about financial analysts. Second, I'm not talking about your desire to get feedback about your products. What I'm talking about is whether you wanted to make financial analysts feel negative or pessimistic about Netscape's business prospects. Did you want that in 1996?
I don't have any control over what analysts think. As far as I know, they take the facts about the products and they go out and talk to customers and look at what's going on in order to form their opinions. So it seems a really bizarre question. They do their own thinking and form their own opinion. They might meet with Microsoft to get our view on what we're doing in products and how customers are responding to that. I personally basically don't meet with financial analysts or talk with financial analysts, with the sole exception of the once a year analyst day that Microsoft has had.
My question, sir, is what you wanted to accomplish with financial analysts. It's not about whether you did it personally or whether Microsoft did it with somebody else. It is what you wanted to accomplish. And what I'm asking you is, did you want to bring about a state of affairs where financial analysts developed a negative or pessimistic view about Netscape's business prospects?
Our focus was doing great software products, and that focus might have had the indirect effect of influencing those people's opinion, but our focus was building those products and getting feedback to guide us in doing a good job in building those products.
Now, my question now is not about what your focus was, and it's not about indirect effects. It is about what you wanted. It is about your intent. It is about what you were trying to accomplish. Were you, in 1996, trying to get financial analysts to develop a more negative and more pessimistic view about Netscape's business prospects?
Except through the indirect effect of them seeing how customers received our products and our product strategies, that was not a goal.